Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the PTSD Buddies podcast. I'm your host, Jamie McWhorter, and this is a great episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I talked to a friend of mine, now Chris. Chris, I've known for a few years now through the Tema Foundation, one of our sponsors. Now, Chris will talk about his PTSD and how he's a paramedic. His wife was also a paramedic and deals with PTSD, so they both have PTSD together. So he tells an interesting story about the two of them, both paramedics, having PTSD, also raising a son with them. He'll tell some interesting stories from a parent side. But what I really like the most about this is Chris has really he's really a survivor of PTSD. He's really beating PTSD, and he credits a lot of it through some great breathing techniques. And he's going to take us through all these great breathing techniques. So if you deal with PTSD and if you're looking for ways to ground yourself, you're going to want to watch this episode. So stay tuned. So, Chris, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with me. I'm excited about this because, well, I know you, and I know some of your story, but I don't really know all your story. So I'm kind of excited, and I know that you've told me stories about talking to the guru and everything else. My God! So where do we begin? Do we talk about life before PTSD, or do we talk about how PTSD entered your life, Chris? Where would you like to begin?
Well, I want to first say thank you for holding space for me and for you and Vanessa being the awesome people that you are and setting the bar high with vulnerability. So I first I first met you at the Tema Gala and you shared your story and Vanessa came on stage and you guys laid it all out there and you showed what being authentic and what vulnerability is all about, and that kind of set a spark for me inside that it never really has been extinguished. Like it keeps burning and burning and burning. So here we are, what is it, maybe 8 years later, and I'm on your podcast. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, and pretty exciting, and I'm pretty honored by those words. If I got anything to do with what you're doing now, I take that as a compliment.
Oh, totally, totally.
Yeah,
You're an influencer, Jamie.
yeah, yeah.
So,
People say you're so authentic. Well, here's the reason why I'm authentic. A lot of people make speeches and write it all down and stuff, and get on stage, and that's a lot of fucking work, man. I'm just gonna get up there and talk. Like, fuck, I'm not writing nothing down. I can't spell really good anyway.
so to like start, like, who is Chris Piva? Um, I grew up in Hamilton. My dad was a steel worker. Mom's a stay-at-home mom, and I ended up finding myself at paramedic college in Toronto, where I met my future wife, Mindy. We both got hired after we graduated, moved up to Muskoka in Ontario, and Mindy worked for 8 years, and then she was diagnosed with PTSD after like a horrific MVC.
Yes.
And she started to do the whole WSIB work reintegration, and she got retrained to be a communicative disorder assistant. And she works with kids and does speech therapy, absolutely loves her job, loves her life right now, and did like a whole journey of healing. And as she was in her third year of her journey after getting diagnosed, I decided to have a really shitty call, and I was diagnosed shortly after and went off work. So Mindy went off in 2012. No, Mindy went off in 2008. I went off in 2012. And Mindy had already kind of, like, the analogy I use is she basically went into the forest, like bushwhacked, found the dragon, slayed the dragon, and walked her way back out and was able to show me the path. She was able to kind of give me guidance when I was in this crazy turmoil,
Yeah.
like during that first couple months, years of being diagnosed. So I went off in 2012. Everything got flipped upside down, and like it really is an absolute nightmare that you're living in. Your family doesn't understand your behavior. You don't understand your behavior. the world as you knew it no longer exists, and it's all kind of been altered. And you really have to learn strategies on how to become a new version of yourself, because the old you is gone.
It's true. Yeah.
And you have to basically start off from scratch and retrain your body and your mind how to live in this world uh, like in harmony with all these symptoms, and learn how to kind of navigate this cool path. So as Mindy was like figuring out her own shit, she found yoga.
Okay.
And yoga, like from my point of view, when I was in this crazy tornado, looking at Mindy going through yoga, I was judgmental. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how is this helping her? All she's doing is really like stretching. And
Yep.
I actually was too blind that I couldn't even see the value in it. And it took a long time. So Mindy stayed the course. While she was in this whole yoga path, she started to change her diet. So she like got healthy. She started going plant-based. She started like drinking less alcohol. She started changing the way that she communicated. So it was no longer coming from a place of judgment or an attack. It was like, it is the coolest thing what it does to your mind, because yoga means like union. So you're in union with the entire universe, the entire cosmos. So how you interact with it is basically a reflection of the quality of your life, like how you are inside.
I understand.
So it's pretty crazy stuff. And it isn't just about stretchy pants and being really flexible like a rubber band. There's so much more to it. It's the words that come out of your mouth, it's the thoughts that you entertain in your mind, it's how you carry your body. It's like, it's how you interact with everything that's around you. That's pretty cool stuff. So me, in my illness, I looked at it and said, poo poo, this stuff is not for me. And I pushed it away for a really long time. And I got really heavy into alcohol, and I packed on a ton of weight, and I was on a ton of sleep aids. I was on a lot of other medications to like help me with leg tremors, with night sweats, with irritability, with depression, with anxiety, with rage, all the stuff. I was on this like massive list of medications.
Yeah.
And I was poisonous. I was poisonous to be around. I was poisonous living with myself, and I thought that it was everybody else's fault. So as I'm kind of like bumping through life really, really in a yucky way, um, Tema comes to us, and it was Aaron Alvarez that said, hey, you guys, they're hosting a program called Can Praxis out in Alberta. It's equine therapy. Would you guys be interested? And I was like, Rick, you know what? Might as well give it a shot. Like Mindy and I, our marriage was, we were on the rocks.
Yeah.
Life wasn't good. All right, let's go. We'll give it one more kick at the can.
Right. Yeah.
So they fly us out to Alberta, and that's where Steve Critchley, and I was just there a couple weeks ago on phase 2. So I told him the analogy. I said, Steve, so this is back in like 2016. And Steve, the analogy that I told him this past week was, I was in a dark box. I was in a really, really dark room. I was completely lost, and I was really, really angry and scared. And when I showed up at Camp Praxis, Steve Critchley gave me the tools, which was basically a giant spotlight that illuminated a way out. He showed me the doorway. And it was the coolest thing, because it was a realization that I was causing all of this.
Yeah.
I was, everything that I was doing, I was basically poisoning myself with my thoughts, with my actions, and I was hurting everyone around me. So it was like leading me or guiding me to the realization of like taking responsibility. Like, it's time to step into your big boy shoes and start making changes in a big way. So some cool takeaways from phase 1 at Camp Praxis is when you are having communication issues with your spouse, with your child, with your family, with anybody, take a step back, and you can create safe words like you guys have talked about that. I remember yours is turnip.
Turnip, yeah. Vanessa
And
eats turnip now.
yeah, so when stuff is really, really escalated, that's when you take a step back, use your safe word, and then revisit whatever it is, whether somebody bought the wrong size bananas, because it really is irrelevant. Revisit that conversation when everybody's cooled down and the dust is settled.
Yep. I had to
So
use the safety word today, Chris.
amazing.
Yeah. My safety word today was cocksucker son of a bitch, though. But, it was there.
That's amazing. And see, Vanessa understands you. And that's the thing. It's mutual respect. It's like, okay, I don't understand really what's going on and what has escalated you, but I'm not going to ask and I'm not going to dig. I'm just going to give you space out of total respect. And then we'll visit this down the road.
Yes.
Or never visit it at all, because sometimes it's just a matter of you processing it yourself sometimes.
True.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what I needed today, because I didn't even know why I got upset until afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the wildest stuff. So other takeaways from that weekend was the one question: what do you need? So when things get crazy, Mindy comes home from work and I can tell she's tense. I just say, "What do you need?" She says, "I just got to go upstairs. I got to go and change out of my clothes, put on comfy clothes. Give me 10 minutes and then I'll come down and I'll reset. No problem. No judgment, no questions.
Yeah.
What do you need?"
Yeah.
And
I like that.
it's been a game changer. And it actually works with our son Braden as well. Like if he is finding himself in some kind of turmoil, whatever it is, "Hey bud, what do you need right now?" And then it just snaps him out of it. He looks at you, he kind of processes, I need a snack. Or I need you to just give me some space. Hey, no problem. Pressure's off. Everybody kind of comes back into balance. And then you carry on. So working more like cohesively as a team has strengthened our relationship, like as a spouse and as a father and as a family unit. Like whatever happens now in the outside world, we can figure it out. We can work through it. We've got the tools to basically get through anything. And we've been tested and we've like proven ourselves successful. And it's the freaking most empowering thing ever is to know that you have the tools to get you through whatever comes in front of you. It's the coolest stuff.
Chris, I like that. I like that. What do you need? I'm going to use that myself, and I appreciate you sharing that because I'm going to use that myself with my own children. Um, I do like what I use to turn up, all right? And for those who are listening and don't know what I'm talking about, in my house we use a safety word. Our safety word is turn up. When someone feels triggered in the house, they say the word turn up, and everyone kind of leaves them alone and gives them space. And it works, but I like yours more. And the reason why I like yours more is there's been times where I can feel the energy from, let's say, my oldest son Avery, and I can feel that he just came home from work and he's not his best. And there are times when I feel that energy, I just give him his space because I know he needs it. But I like the idea of saying, "Man, what do you need?" more because it's letting him know that I understand, or I don't want to use the word understand, but I get that he's going through something, and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Instead of just ignoring it and pretend like he's not having a problem, I'd rather the idea of getting involved as the parent and saying, "Hey, man, what do you need? How can I help?"
It also allows open of communication.
Yes.
Right? There's not just
cool.
a shutdown or a breakdown of it. It opens the line of communication, and if they feel like talking, they know you're there. If they don't, they can save it to themselves.
Yes. Yeah, that's wicked.
It's cool, eh?
I like
and
it.
It's so basic. It's so basic.
It's something you should do anyway.
Yeah.
It's something so, I don't want to blame technology and the internet, but it's something that's kind of lost on people nowadays. Just a kind word, a hello, how are you? Open the door. You know, I know the COVID doesn't help. Put on a mask. Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, COVID's really it's definitely thrown a stick in people's spokes.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's Camp Praxis. So they are a free program. They are non-for-profit. They are there for military veterans and first responders, active and inactive, active and retired. And Steve is the salt of the earth. That guy has lived, and he's been in the mud, and he has risen out of the mud, and he's there to serve people. And basically, just like picture him at the top of a hill pointing in a direction. So you head up that hill. You don't even have to do anything. You just go in that direction that he's pointing without any question, and he's going to give you the right amount of guidance that you need. Like, he is in tune with first responders and military personnel. It's the coolest program.
I'm going to look more into it. That's and Chris, if you have any links to this program or any information, can you please forward it, and I'll add it to the podcast description.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
Chris, I do have a question.
Yeah, give her.
What was it like? I'm asking this because I got Vanessa here too, so Vanessa could almost answer too. Did you notice the PTSD in your wife before she noticed it, or the other way around?
If I'm to stand back and reflect on the whole picture, I realize that 3 weeks into me starting work, I should have probably changed careers.
Yeah.
And Mindy, I would say shortly after, because when you are, I call it tribes. So, like, my unit or my tribe was 80 paramedics. Out of those 80 paramedics, I would say 95% were ill. So, illness and the way that they were handling their illness was with either behavior, so coming across in the form of judgment and negativity,
Yeah.
or leaning on substance, alcoholism, and whatever medications that they were choosing to put in their bodies. So, looking back, we slowly started to slide into that group.
Yeah.
And we would basically create a life around it. So it was the norm on weekends to get together with 20 of them and drink your face off and do stupid things like burning couches and whatever other behaviors we were doing, driving drunk, all this stuff. But it was accepted because that was the circle that you were in. And it's poison.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And people, it's basically like a slow death. Like, if you stay in that circle, it will lead you ultimately to a quicker death than if you had made choices that were better and you kind of broke those patterns. So, like, looking back, like, could I have recognized us in it? I actually have a really cool quote. Let me just pull it up here for you to see. I was reading this really cool book, and she had said, "We are unaccustomed to giving value to what we cannot see." So if you don't want to see that you have an illness, you're not going to be able to see it and recognize it. And then when you're not even able to see it and recognize it, you can't even make choices that are going to change the direction you're headed in.
Yeah.
So we're unaccustomed to giving value to what we cannot see. Like, I didn't even know I was sick. What you realize you are sick when everybody in those circles are like, "Whoa, man, you're like way out of line right now.
Yep.
You all right?
Yep.
Okay, I got a problem. Everybody's telling me I got a problem. Now I got to do something about it." But when everybody else has the same problems, it's normal.
Yep. I didn't realize I had a problem until I put two and two together and said, "Man, everybody is saying I need to calm down.
Yeah.
Everyone is telling me I am overreacting." So that's me. That's why I was asked, like, did you notice did you notice, like, because you knew Mindy before PTSD? Did you notice the change? Like, did you notice the change from Mindy before PTSD to now? Because the reason why I asked that, because if you did it weigh on your mind doing your job? Did it make you want to leave your job? Was that on your mind at all?
That's such a good question. So I can still remember like Mindy being off and me sitting in the crew room with like two other crew members and talking about Mindy. Hey,
Yeah.
and they're like, Chris, how's Mindy doing at home, man? Like,
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Like, how's she doing? And I'm like, yeah, she's working through it. She goes to a psychologist all the time and she's really struggling.
Yeah.
And like we've basically isolated from family and friends and it's really tough.
Yeah.
But the freaking crazy part is that I couldn't see it and I didn't even have the awareness to say, you know what, this could happen to me. I was so ignorant to the fact that it was coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And it was probably already in me, but it was based on like my upbringing and my thought patterns that I'm a guy and it's not going to affect me. Like I fell into that judgmental mindset of like my wife, she's female, she has more emotions and that's why PTSD got her. Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest illness there is passing judgment on other people on shit that you don't understand.
Yes.
I was doing it to my wife.
Yeah. Well, you can't really say it's your fault. You didn't understand, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It really is the craziest thing when you're in it. And like one cool saying that I like is trying to describe what PTSD is like trying to describe what the color 9 smells like.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
unless you've experienced it, there is no way to truly understand.
No, because people who don't understand, you try to find that common ground, like this good example that they understand, and you're right, it is hard.
Yeah. The best way to understand something is to experience it.
But once they get it, it's
Watch
like
out.
it's a shock. Oh my goodness, yeah. Like once they get it, they're like, "How did I not understand this before?"
Yeah. And that is like that opened a door for compassion. When it happened to me, all of a sudden I was like, wow, Mindy, I had no idea that it was like this hard for you.
Yeah,
This is intense.
yeah,
And I'm so grateful that she had the ability to dig and dig and dig and have that perseverance and the willingness to grow because that's what leads you to post traumatic growth. Is like the cool analogy for this is trauma is like manure. So if you have a shit pile of trauma or a shit pile of manure, and that can be from childhood and then as you get into your profession, you have a choice, just like a vegetable garden or a flower garden has a choice. So when the farmer spreads with his shit spreader all that manure on the field,
yeah,
the vegetables can either use it as nutrients and grow really strong and healthy and make delicious fruits and vegetables, or they can stay buried and never use that nutrients for growth. And that's what trauma is. Like, if the worst thing that's happened to you in life, it is the biggest opportunity for growth. But it is ultimately the most difficult thing that you may ever go through in your life.
yeah.
But it's possible. People are doing it all the time now.
That's a cool analogy, man, about the manure. I like it.
Trauma is manure.
You're becoming a guru, man.
Well, I've been doing a lot of reading and I've been like practicing. So like as I wake up, I'm focusing on being conscious as much as I can throughout the day. Because when you're conscious, you actually have the ability to choose. You can respond to life situations rather than react. Because being reactive comes from being unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
not being aware. So when you're aware, when you're in tune with what's going on, you have the ability to respond in a conscious way. And it is hard work. It doesn't come easy because you're rewiring your brain from childhood. You're rewiring your brain from your high school years, and then you're rewiring your brain even from when you were in your career.
Well,
Because
especially
you're
for
getting
you in your
programmed
career.
in each stage of development.
Yeah, especially for you in your career. I mean, paramedic in the heat of the moment doesn't have a lot of time to, well, let's analyze this. What should I do? You know, the guy's,
Yeah, well,
there's a person bleeding out, like, let's think about this. No, you have to react, right?
yeah.
I'm the
I
same
think we
way.
should.
I'm the same way
I
in the
think we
military.
should change the name from first responders to first reactors because you are reacting based on training.
Yeah, yeah,
But we're called responders because you have the ability to think.
yeah. I've talked to that about that with my psychologist. He says, you know, that's a lot of times why with my anger just comes on because my training after 25 years in the military is, well, let's not think about it, let's action it. Let's, you know, I don't. I remember my sergeant saying, "I don't want to see nothing but heels and arseholes running up over that fucking hill." Right? So
Yeah,
we're not going to stop and think about the hill. We're just going to go over it. You know, just we have to react, not think,
yeah,
and it's hard to break that.
wild. Yeah. So that's a good segue for how to break it.
That's why.
So that's a good segue, like a good lead into how you can actually go from a reactive to a responsive level of consciousness.
Yeah.
You want to hear about it?
Yes, I do.
All right. So after I figured out, okay, Chris needs yoga, I got into yoga, and during this yoga, I really found that they call it pranayama. So it's like your life force, it's your breath.
Okay.
So your breath has like a direct connection from your mind to your body. Your breath is what is basically the bridge. So where your body goes, your mind goes, or where your mind goes, your body goes.
All right.
The way to have control over it is to pay attention to your breath. So this is like, you know how we talked about what do you need, like how it was so basic?
Yes.
Breathing is also so basic.
Yeah. Well,
But
I meditate. I love
yeah,
meditation. I love meditation, and so I understand what you're talking about there with the breath.
amazing.
Yes.
So when you focus on your breath, you only allow your brain to think of one thing at a time. Breathing.
Yes.
Watch my breath go in, watch my breath go out. When you can only think of your breath, when you're paying attention to your breath, your mind doesn't have the ability to kind of create thoughts and entertain thoughts.
Yes.
So thoughts basically lead you to emotions. So whatever traumatic memories you've had, whatever pleasant and joyful memories you've had, you can allow those to be entertained, and those release the chemicals that are stored in your like emotional department. So if you're really thinking of a traumatic event,
Yep.
all of a sudden your heart rate's going up, your blood pressure's going up, your hands are sweaty, and you're breathing really shallow.
Yep.
But if you're putting yourself back into a really, really awesome time in your life, maybe your child was born or your wedding day or whatever cool vacation, all of a sudden your palms aren't sweaty, your blood pressure is low, your heart rate's low, and your breathing is slow and deep. So just your breath alone has the ability to influence your parasympathetic nervous system and your nervous system or your sympathetic nervous system. So this yoga that I found out, like, there's so much cool stuff to talk about with just breathing alone. But when you are feeling anxious, so you're in an elevated state because you're reliving past memories or you're fearing the future,
Yeah.
you have to first notice. I think that's one of the biggest things is okay, right now I'm feeling anxious. So kind of take an inventory. What's my heart doing right now? Oh, it's pounding really fast. Okay, I feel like a lot of tension. Okay, my chest is really tight. What are my hands doing? Okay, my hands are really sweaty. So first, stepping back, like that's a skill in itself, is basically noticing what your body's telling you. You're fucking stressed out right now, you're feeling anxious, and your body is telling you, you gotta listen. So once you basically learn step number one is how to notice, then you get to implement change. So you get to say, okay, I'm gonna go into my toolbox and I'm gonna pull out something that's worked for me in the past, that I've used in the past, and it's worked because I know through experience that it will work. So it's like a trusted tool. So nose breathing is super important opposed to mouth breathing, because when you breathe through your nose, you release nitric oxide in your nasal cannulas, like in your nostril, your nares.
Okay.
And nitric oxide is a vasodilator, so it relaxes your veins, lowering your blood pressure, lowering the workload on your heart. So just being a nose breather is better than being a mouth breather. That'll calm you down right away. So as you take these breaths, it's important to notice that you take full breaths, but really, really slow. So as you take an inhale through your nose, take it slow and controlled. And as you exhale, make your exhale 3 times longer than your inhale. So when you think of when you're anxious and you're breathing fast, you're not taking full breaths, they're really shallow, and you're not completely exhaling. So the complete exhale is the most important piece, because your lungs in the lower lobes have all these cool sensors that basically stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, lower blood pressure, lower heart rate. So when you exhale completely, blow it all out, you push on all those buttons and it sends that signal to your brain, hey, he's relaxing. Okay, lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate. So inhale through your nose, nice and slow. Exhale 3 times longer out of your mouth and make it complete. So that's like the biggest breath that I use when I'm anxious. And I just made a video the other day. So when we were paramedics, they taught us in school the average adult human being will take between 12 and 16 breaths per minute. The video that I made yesterday was me breathing 2 times per minute. So instead of like taking 12 to 16 breaths, I only took 2.
Right, yeah.
And one breath takes 30 seconds. Super slow. And like if you do it, you actually feel fantastic. Like it just zens you right out.
Nice.
And I lean on breathing so much. And like I was telling you earlier, I was able, with just breathing alone, to wean myself off all of my medications and work through all of the withdrawal symptoms that I was having, like brain zaps, dizzy spells, like nausea, all this stuff. I worked through all those symptoms with just breathing.
Wow.
It's crazy stuff. It sounds whack. Like, I know that if I talk to myself, like when I was coming out of high school or just going into being a paramedic, I'd be like, this guy is fucking whack, man. You're telling breathing's gonna help with anxiety? You're crazy.
Well, it makes sense to me because when someone first brought up the idea of meditation to me, I'm like, man, you just want me to sit there. Yep, just sit there and breathe. I'm like, man, I'm not doing that. That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And he said, who's your hero? And I'm like, I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. He's like, how can you be a huge Bruce Lee fan and not believe in meditation?
Yep.
Right. So I made a deal with him. He said he wanted me to sit for an hour. Just try it by myself for an hour. All right. I set a timer. I was like, man, I don't know if I can sit for a full hour. Right. So I sat, and honestly, the alarm went off a lot faster than I expected.
Amazing.
When the alarm went off, I'm like, yeah, that's not a fucking hour. What the fuck's wrong with my phone? Somebody's phoning me, some shit, right? But no, an hour had passed, and I don't remember what the question was, but I remember I was pondering a question all day. Should I do this? Should I do that? I go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
When I finished meditating, and I'm not bullshitting anyone here who's listening, the answer to that question I was pondering all day was so clear, and the answer was so clear, I questioned, how the fuck did I not know the answer? It's obviously I need to do this. Now, before I meditated, I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Should I go here? Should I go there? Should I go here? I don't know. I meditated, and all I did, I didn't think about nothing. I just concentrate, breathe in, breathe out, right? When it was over, Chris, the answer was clear. I had to go there, right? Like, I'm like, it's. So that's when I first started believing in meditating, and I try to do it as often as I can. I don't do it every day like I should, but every time I do it, I feel better.
Yeah.
I don't get it, but I do it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So breathing is a form of meditation.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, because that's all I do. I just concentrate on my breathing. That's it. I mean,
Yeah, I think people get caught up with thinking like, okay, I have to go find a really quiet place. I have to sit cross-legged. I got to put my palms up. I got to close my eyes with my back straight.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
All you got to do is just pay attention to your breath. Watch it come in, watch it go out. As soon as you start paying attention, it'll change.
Yeah. My favorite spot to meditate is in the shower.
Amazing.
Yeah, the shower, man. Close your eyes, have the water hitting my back, and man, next thing you know, Vanessa's knocking on the shower. Are you getting out? What are you doing in there? You're dirty. I'm not doing what you think. Okay, God.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie, it's definitely a skill that I think people like, especially in North America, we think that meditation is like it's magic or it's hocus pocus. Like people don't really believe in something because you like there's like this paradigm or like what do they call it? A spectrum. So like there's knowing and there's belief. They're on either ends.
Yes.
So like I explained this to one of my friends the other day. Let's say we're standing on the beach. I point at the water and I say, that water is wet. And you're like, well, how do I know that? I've never been in there. I've never touched water before. So if I tell you this and you don't actually go in there and experience it, you'll believe that water is wet and you'll create your own kind of ideas on what wet feels like. But the moment you go in the water and you say, oh, this is what wet is, now you know. So knowing is experience. So the tricky part is like us talking about this right now.
Yeah.
How do we let somebody know rather than believe?
Oh my God. I smoke too much weed for you to ask questions like that.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I
don't have an answer to that.
That's the trick of life, because if you have all these great things that work for you, how do you share them to people that can't see the value? So the cool part is the only way that I've found so far, instead of trying to influence people with like, okay, you got to do this, it works, trust me.
Yeah.
I simply just do it. So like my psychologist says, just be the lighthouse. She's like, stand on the point, be super bright, and instead of being the rescue boat that runs out to the ocean rescuing all the time, just let them come to you. So when your vibe, your energy is in such a state that people are naturally just drawn to it. They're like, wow, this guy's fucking doing something right. I'm gonna go and see what he's doing. I'm gonna ask him.
Yep. It's happening.
And that's all you can do. Yeah. So right now, like you and I having this conversation,
yes.
The people that want to absorb it, they're listening. The people that don't want to absorb it, they don't have that capacity right now, and that's okay. Like I wish them well.
Yep.
It's the coolest thing.
blowing my mind a little bit,
That's good. That's why we're doing this talk right now.
It's not hard to do, Chris. I do it every day.
Wait, say that again.
I said,
She said she blows me every day.
No. Blows mine. I blow your mind every day. Yep.
You guys are amazing.
I never heard the word mind. You said mind.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, you want to hear something really cool?
Yes, I
You
do.
might already know this. So one of the breathing practices that I use, it's called the Wim Hof method. So it's WIM space HOF. It's this dude out of the Netherlands. He lost his wife to suicide. She left him with 4 kids. And he was like, what the fuck do I do now? So he went on this kind of path. So he was walking down by the lake near his house in the winter, and he says there was just this real thin layer of ice on the lake. So he's like, something called me, and I pulled off my clothes and I went into the water. So when you go in cold water, right away, your breath is the first thing that changes. You take a giant inhale.
Yeah.
So he said that in his accent, the cold is my teacher. So the cold was his teacher. It said,
Yeah.
do this. So this giant inhale, you pull in tons of oxygen, you exhale, giant inhale. So he does this, and he created this thing called the Wim Hof method, and it is mind blowing. So the way that it works is, as a human being, you're electrical. So your brain is a computer, your spine has your wiring harness with all your neurons and axons and dendrites. Your heart is an electrical pump, and all your cells are doing all kinds of cool electrical stuff.
Yeah.
When you breathe this way, it's basically like hyper oxygenating, you're turbocharging the oxygen going into your cells. What happens is you are raising the voltage of your blood. So your voltage is measured as a pH value. So you have like your acid base balance, and like 7 is like neutral. So as a human being, we're normally running at like 7.2, 7.4. So we're slightly alkaline. When you breathe this way, you go up to 7.8. So 7.8, I think it's like millivolts. So it's actually, you turn up the voltage of your blood. And that's why when you hyperventilate, you get tingly fingertips, you get kind of tingly around your face, you feel a little bit dizzy.
Yeah.
It's raising your voltage. So he's proven now, they've injected him with like E. coli in a study right into his like bloodstream. And with this breathing technique alone, within 15 minutes, he's out in the waiting room drinking coffee because he breathed in such a way that he raised the voltage, made his body so alkaline that it neutralized all of these intruders in his bloodstream. So it lowers inflammation, kills disease and bacteria, and it is the quickest way to get into a meditative state. Like it balances your mind, like you're centered.
That's nuts.
It is the craziest shit. And like I've experienced it. I was getting sick once a couple of years ago, like laying on the couch being like, oh, I got aches and pains. I did like 120 breaths, like 4 cycles of 30.
Yeah.
And I spiked a wicked fever like halfway into it, like sweaty, full on. My whole body was just soaked. And after that, I got up off the couch and I'm like, holy shit, like it's gone. Went and had a cold shower and I never got sick. I'm like, okay, it works. I believe.
It's almost like, it sounds like a runner's high that I hear about, like a little supercharge.
Yeah, well, this is another piece to it is in our brainstem, we have our endocannabinoid system.
How the fuck do you remember all these words, man?
Yeah, so
Jesus.
you know why weed works so well is because you have a system that is filled with receptors for weed. We have an endocannabinoid system in our brainstem. So
I told that to my teacher in high school years ago. He didn't believe me.
Yeah. So like, so when you breathe this way, you actually like knock on the door and you say, okay, I want you guys to release some. And all of a sudden it floods your system. So you get that euphoria, you get that high.
Yeah.
So he says, breathe like this and you get high on your own supply.
What?
So the human body, it's electrical, it's mechanical, and it's chemical. So we are the most sophisticated chemical factory walking on this planet.
Wow.
I believe that.
And you have the choice of what chemicals you get to release.
Okay.
So you already know how to control your thoughts with your breath.
Yeah.
Thoughts equal emotions. Okay, I don't want to be sad. Well, I'm just going to breathe, and that'll bring me into this present moment, and I can be grateful for what's around me. Then that influences your chemical factory. And if you breathe in such a way, you get to release cannabis into your system. If you breathe even more past that, you start to release DMT, which is that crazy hallucinogenic. So there's people that are doing like, it's called holotropic breathing. And they basically like hyperventilate for like 3 hours in a room with crazy music that takes them on this wild trip, and they release a lot of their trauma.
Holy moly! You're
It's
telling
crazy
me
stuff.
I can by breathing I can release DMT into my system. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Well, you got to teach me how to do that.
Okay, so do you want to let's do 20 breaths and then you notice how your body feels.
Okay, let's do it. And anyone who's listening right now, I want you to do this along with us.
Okay, so don't do it when you're driving. Don't do it when you're in a body of water. So like no bathtubs. And like do it when you're sitting.
Yeah, so you that's driving the car right now, don't do this. Don't do this.
Yeah, hit pause or hit skip and then do it later.
Yeah, pull over.
So all you're going to do is take big inhales through your nose or mouth, because some people have congested noses because they never use them, and when you don't use an organ, it kind of starts to fail. So if your nose is plugged right now from a cold or allergies or just inactivity, I forgive you. Just breathe through your mouth. So so we're going to do 20 breaths. And then on our last breath, we're going to exhale completely. Remember, push all that air out, and then we're going to hold our breath. Maybe for a minute, maybe a minute and a half. In this minute and a half is the biggest gift. This is where you're going to be calm, relaxed, balanced, centered. Like, this is the meditative state that everybody's seeking. And you can do it in 20 breaths, anywhere, anytime. You guys ready?
Yes.
So big inhale through your mouth or nose. Exhale. Inhale. Last one. Full exhale. Hold your breath. Notice that tingly sensation in your hands.
I do.
You just shifted your pH or raised your voltage. Your mind is clear.
I almost feel like I got a little buzz on.
Okay. You got high on
I
your
got,
own
I got a
supply.
little high, man. I really did. Well, all right.
Well, all right. So if this was taught to me in kindergarten and I use this throughout my entire life, there's a question mark. Maybe I would have lasted in a career that had a huge demand on my mental and physical health.
Yeah.
Maybe if I had stronger tools, I would have maybe lasted longer, or I would have, who knows? Who knows what the possibilities are? But I'm glad that I found this out at 38 years of age. I'm glad that I'm able to share it with other people. I'm glad that my son has embraced this and it's helped him with his own struggles with anxiety, as he has basically lived through two parents going through post-traumatic stress disorder, with marital problems, with substance abuse, with emotional neglect. He has actually found strength to handle his anxiety,
It must
and
feel
it
good that he's
is
having that
next
too.
level. What's that?
It must feel good that you're showing him these things.
Yeah, like
Like,
if we have these really good tools and somebody can benefit from them, like we got to share them. If they use them, that's their choice. If they throw them away, then that's okay too. Maybe they weren't ready.
what's amazing to me is the tools that we're talking about are tools that have been around since the beginning of time. Like
Yes.
how long has meditation been a thing?
They've been doing it for like recorded history in India, 15,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's statues from hundreds of years ago of people in these positions.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like you said earlier, a lot of people don't realize that you don't need to be in this weird, ugly position to do it. Right? You can just sit on your
No,
couch.
just breathe.
Just
Like
breathe.
that's that basic. Have the, but you know what the big thing is have the willingness.
Yeah.
You got to be willing. If you're not willing, hey, you know what? Keep on doing what you're doing, and someday maybe you'll absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole part of this whole journey, is that like your pace is your pace. It's nobody else's. If you figure this out when you're 10, awesome. You figure it out when you're 101, fuck, good on you.
Yeah. At least you're figuring it out.
Yeah, at least you figured it out.
Yeah. More PTSD Buddies podcasts after a word from our sponsors. We are sponsored by the Tema Foundation. The Tema Foundation is a great foundation in Canada that helps first responders, military, frontline workers, the whole community deal with mental illness. The Tema Foundation strives to make mental health healthier for our first responders and frontline worker community. They've worked to create a free, I say again, a free online educational series that can help you cope with the daily stress, anxiety, and depression your career may bring you. PPE for Your Mind is a helpful collection of videos, ebooks, audiobooks, and much more. It's meant to help first responders, frontline workers, healthcare professionals, public safety personnel, military, and the important people in our lives. To all those who work to keep us healthy and safe, the Tema Foundation hopes PPE for Your Mind will help build your resilience as you continue to fight for the benefits of us all. Find PPE for Your Mind free along with other educational materials at www.tema.foundation. That's www.tema.foundation. You can make sure to follow the Tema Foundation also on all the social media, just to stay in the loop on all the things they got coming up, because they in the past have run galas and everything. So you really want to keep up on the Tema Foundation. They're doing a lot for Canada. And let me just add in, living in Newfoundland, I am the Newfoundland ambassador for the Tema Foundation. So check them out, the Tema Foundation. They are there to help. PTSD Buddies podcast is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Wellness. Spartan Wellness is a Canadian organization, and I'm proud to say that I'm a member of Spartan Wellness. I use medical cannabis, and one of the things that Spartan Wellness does is help people, Canadians, get medical cannabis if they need it. You don't need to be just a veteran or a member of the RCMP. They'll help anybody get medical cannabis. Now, that's not the only thing they do. As a veteran, they also will help veterans deal with Veterans Affairs. Veterans Affairs can sometimes get a little confusing with different. Now, this is not against Veterans Affairs themselves. They're a great organization, but sometimes veterans can get a little confused with filling out forms and everything, and Spartan Wellness is there to assist with that. They also assist with insurance and rehab platforms. They can help assist you with Veterans Affairs and setting up with your Blue Cross provider. Not only do they help you with your getting your medical cannabis prescription, they'll help you pick out the right licensed producer for you, because Spartan Wellness works with all the medical cannabis producers out there, and they can help you pick the right one for you. They also provide lots of medical cannabis education. So maybe you're not sure if medical cannabis is right for you. They're here to provide all the education you need and answer any questions you have. And they'll even help you get all registered with that licensed producer once you choose it. Okay, so check out Spartan Wellness at spartanwellness.ca. They are a great team. Cheers.
So you want to hear some more cool shit?
Yes, I do.
Okay. This has also been common knowledge for thousands of years. But for some reason, I didn't know about it until a couple of years ago. So now that you are aware that we're electrical and that you have an influence over the electricity in your body, we are walking on a giant rock or mud blob, and what it has is free-flowing electrons. So the Earth is electric.
Yes.
So the way that the Earth is electric is lightning strikes the Earth 5,000 times per minute globally. It's an insane amount of electricity going into the Earth, and it holds it. It holds it as free-flowing electrons. So they're kind of just all over the place. And what have we done is we've created synthetic soles to put between our feet and the ground. We've elevated our beds so that we no longer sleep on the surface of the Earth. We're on second floors, third floors, 54th floors. We're no longer in physical contact with the Earth.
Yeah.
When you actually touch the Earth with your bare feet, these free-flowing electrons on the Earth's surface come into the soles of your feet, and they are a dustpan for inflammation. So inflammatory disease has been on the rise for the last 100 years, and it is a direct result of our lifestyle. Shoes are now fashionable and cool, and they are making us sick. Our lifestyles are making us sick because of our disconnect from the planet.
Is that why it feels so good to me to walk barefoot in the grass?
Yes.
Because I love doing that.
When do you feel the best? When you're walking down the beach with your bare feet.
That's true. Not in Newfoundland, no. We don't have sandy beaches. Everything's rock.
It still holds those electrons.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing. Like, you're like, okay, what do I do in the winter then? Because you can't walk around barefoot in the snow without getting frostbite and having your legs amputated. So this one dude out of California, he created this product. So the website's earthing.com, and when we sleep, we're all grounded. So the way that it works is your plug outlet, if you look at it right now, in your house, it has a ground connection, right? It's got that little hole in the bottom by itself.
Yep.
That ground wire goes, like, it's a copper wire that goes all the way down to your panel. And then an electrician drove a grounding rod 15 feet into the Earth.
Yep.
It's a giant copper wire, probably almost an inch thick. So in the event of a lightning strike or a surge of electricity, the earth absorbs all that extra energy. So that's your direct connection to the earth, whether you're living on the 60th floor of an apartment building or whether you're on like your main floor of your house. It's a wire that you plug into the ground, and then it connects with an ankle band. He's got bed sheets that are conductive, pillowcases, socks, all this stuff, but you're grounded. Once you make that connection to that ground with your skin, you're grounded. So when we sleep at night, even the dog, I bought her like a nice sheet that she has on a dog bed. So my dog's even grounded. And it helps with the inflammatory process. It stops inflammation from happening. So like when you get say arthritis, you have a joint that gets inflamed, maybe from a past injury or overuse.
Yeah.
You have all these white blood cells that are hanging around there. When you're ungrounded, it has nowhere to go. So the electrons are, I call it like the dustpan for white blood cells. It comes in, they kind of sweep them all up, clean up all that white blood cells that did their job, and helps get them out of the body.
It's fucking cool, man.
Grounding.
Yeah.
So people have been walking around bare feet on this planet for thousands of years, and they had little to no inflammatory diseases.
Who knew that grounding actually meant the ground?
Whoa.
Whoa,
Isn't that crazy stuff though? But like it's so basic. So it's like there's three basic things. There's what do you need, there's breathing, and now there's grounding. Those are all free.
Yep.
And those three things are basically like my trifecta for how I've kind of rebounded out of this hole that I was in.
That's amazing stuff. And I know it's working because I've talked to you, I've seen your posts and things, like it's really working.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me because meditation, like I said, works for me. And meditation is all about breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I have noticed too, meditating, it works better if you're on the ground instead of like on the couch or something like that. I know me, it's like you said, it's grounded. You're on the ground.
You're connected. Well, like if you look at your body, we are a heap of food. So as you consume food that came from the earth, whether it was an animal or a plant, it came from the earth. So you're a heap of food. And your mind is a heap of memories. It's just a collection of all the shit that you've recorded over your time on this planet. Like we are a piece of the earth.
Yeah.
And like being connected to it, I think it's a really important piece.
Yeah. Man, it makes so much sense. I've talked to somebody before about that, about grounding and being connected to the ground. I never knew about the lightning bolt thing you said, though. Man,
5,000 times per minute globally.
that's a lot.
Zap, 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 zap. Yeah, it's nuts.
It is. I never knew that.
Yeah, because there's like I guess it's the ionosphere. It's positively charged. The Earth's negatively charged, so that's how it jumps.
Yeah,
it's cool stuff.
It is, man. It is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want to hear some more cool stuff?
I was just about to say this stuff should be taught more.
Well, I wanted to run stuff, but then COVID happened, so I just been talking to my phone and making videos.
Educating. That's what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. So during COVID and just a little bit before, my brother and I, we came up with our brand or our logo, but it's basically we're creating a business to help people with mental health. And our initial plan was to help military and first responders and have a lakeside retreat where we could teach them these basic things that I've been talking about.
Cool.
And the name of our company is like a play on words from like Radio 10 code. So what's your 20 is like, what's your location?
Yep.
So in your 20 is the name of our company, and it means that you're present. So you're in this present moment, you're right where you are.
Nice.
You're not worried about the past, you're not worried about the future, you're here right now.
Yep.
And it's been a lot of fun creating it, and like being this entrepreneur is it's a different roller coaster on its own.
Yeah.
But we've started on Facebook and Instagram, and my brother came up with this really cool idea, and he's like, what if we could make an app that would bring this to people in a live format? So if you could connect with other people around the world and do what we're teaching. I'm like, Brian, I'm like, how do we do an app? He's like, I got a guy. So we're in beta testing right now. So beta testing with this app World Lingo is basically you're on the edge. You're ready to hit launch, but there's one bug that we're working through, and we have like 20 of our friends that we're going to start trying like in the next week to work through this bug and find out where it's going wrong.
Yep. That's cool.
But we're super excited.
You guess so, man. That's cool stuff. You're gonna be on Dragon's Den next, eh?
I don't know. It's a whole new world. Like, I don't like computers, or computers don't like me, whatever that relationship is. And I've been basically sitting in the back, being like, just giving feedback and ideas. Like, yeah, I think it should look like this, or I think we should do this. And just my brother and I. So like each night, maybe a couple times each week, we practice or like go through the app to find bugs and like just doing it.
Yeah.
So it takes like 4 minutes. It's all breathing stuff. And like we both have huge smiles on our faces. We're both present. We're both feeling really good. And I'm like, we got to get this out there. Like the sooner the better. So stay tuned for In Your 20s app. And the sucky part is it's only on the Apple Store for iPhone users.
Yeah.
Because there's you got to pay a whole whack of money, which we don't have to get Androids involved.
Oh, okay.
But hopefully it'll come down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like a passion that we've both kind of found now that we've learned about breathing. And
that's very cool stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
And what I like the most about it is I've seen I'm not going to say apps, but I've seen things created to help people with mental illness, and a lot of times they're created by somebody who really has not experienced mental illness. So to have an app that is created by somebody who has been through it, who understands and been through the experiences, to me means more.
It's amazing.
Yes, because here you are using an app from a person who is not only probably dealing with something that's similar to you, but has found things that are working, and they want to share those things that are working for them with you to see if they work for you too. Right? It has more meaning behind it to me, Chris.
Right? Say it again.
I said it because it's coming from you and your experience. It has more meaning behind it to me.
Yeah, there's experience behind it instead of just like throwing a dart at a dartboard with a blindfold, being like, I think this will work.
Yes.
Like, I know this works.
Yeah.
It got me out of the darkest place in my entire life.
Yeah. Here's some pills. Try this. Follow my finger. No? All right. Try these pills.
Yeah, you know what? Those guys, they got it made, man.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical companies.
The pill people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to say that it got me through dark places when I didn't have any tools. And
I'm not down on anyone who gave me the pills. They're only doing what they thought was right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wonder, like, reflecting back, like, if somebody said, "Hey, man, like, try this," like, I don't even know how receptive I would have been. Like, I had such thick glasses on that I don't even know what I could perceive, like, if this had any value. But I don't know, maybe just like COVID has really put mental health on the map, and it's no longer a first responder or military problem. It's a global problem.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that is where the need's gonna come in, is people are like, okay, I'm a teacher and I'm really struggling with anxiety. Like, how can I make this get better?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here, try this. Like, if they're open, it can work for them. It can change their life.
Yeah. Well, it can get frustrating. I mean, a mental illness, it's a lot harder to fix than it is a physical injury, right? Our bodies are a lot the same, bones are a lot the same, so a cast can work for almost anybody. But a mental illness is harder to fix, so it's sometimes really up to the person themselves to find what works for them, right?
Yeah,
But when you talk about breathing, when you talk about grounding, no, that works for everybody. It's been around thousands of years, right?
yeah, yeah,
You know what I've been noticing? I've been watching. I've been listening to this other podcast, and it's called. I can't remember. It's done by Dax Shepard, the armchair expert, and he has a lot of uh, movie stars and politicians and things like that on there. And listening to his podcast and listening to these, famous people, there is one thing I've noticed that a lot of them have in common. A lot of them meditate.
yeah,
A lot of them meditate. A lot of them, and they are very open about it. If they don't meditate, they're doing yoga,
yeah,
right? So I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, there is something to it. You can sit there and say meditation is stupid. I tried it; it's bogus. I don't know, man.
It's not just about trying it, it's a learned practice too. It's something that you have to develop.
Yeah.
You can't just do it in one sitting and think that everything's going to be okay. It takes a matter of time and practice, just like anything.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I've had people say that there are days. Now these people I'm talking about, they meditate almost every day, and I've heard them tell me that they've had days where they felt worse after meditating too. It's not always going to be good, right?
yeah,
Sometimes the meditation can be draining.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Human being.
Human
Got
being.
fluctuations, yeah.
Mm.
Here's the, like, when you talk to people and you notice that there's resistance, they're like, I don't know, like, they kind of have that weird face where they're like, I don't think like this is gonna work for me.
Yeah.
So the way that I kind of understand it is that these walls that get kind of put up around the person, they are initially put in place for protection. So when they're inside of the walls that they've created, like, oh no, I can't go plant based. That sounds too crazy. Oh no, I can't breathe. That just sounds weird. Oh no, I have to not do grounding because I need to protect my feet if I step on glass. So all these things that they've put up are walls, and they're safe on the inside.
Yes.
The walls that protect you are actually the walls that enslave you.
Yes.
They create their own prison. And it's hard. It is really hard, especially when the people that are in this prison are like immediate family. And that's been one of my biggest struggles, is that some of my like family of origin haven't picked up and kind of utilized some of the stuff that I've been sharing. And it's been a rough couple of years. Like, there was some things that surfaced and stuff got yucky, and I really do wish them well. But that was one of the hardest things for I think people to go through, is to like you know something is so good, and your loved ones are like, no, not gonna do it. You're like, oh, shit, like I just want to bang my head against the wall. But I've
Yeah.
learned cool tools that, like, if I start banging my head against the wall, I'm just gonna make myself sick. So I step back, I take a breath, and I say, hey, I wish you guys well.
Yeah.
Like I gotta start taking care of me.
Yeah. Well, there are some people who, for lack of a better term, me and Vanessa call them vampires.
Yeah, 100%. I love that.
Where they just being around them and talking to them, they just drain your energy. You try to throw goodness at them, and it's just like a black hole. No, no, that won't work. No, no, that's not good. No.
It's so hard to be around, and it's so hard to, yeah, just to see, to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's why we are higher vibrational lights for others that are like not accepting the status quo. We're like, you know what? I'm going to shift some gears in a big way, and I'm going to try some new shit, and I'm going to be loud about it.
yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. I tried. I'm not the same person I was when I was in the military. I used to have a hard time letting things go,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I accredit meditating to my ability to let things go now. Things don't bother me like they used to.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I credit to meditating. I don't get it. It's such a weird thing to me, meditating. Right? It's such a weird thing because I feel like I could talk to ghosts and everything, man, when I meditate sometimes. Like I'm waiting for a message or something. I don't know, man. Maybe I watch too many alien shows, but it's like. But I always when I meditate, I feel like I almost leave my body.
Yeah, Jamie, you're speaking truth right now.
Yeah. But
It is so, like, some context is 95% of the population is fear-based and living out of their five senses.
okay.
So it's limited. It's a limited existence. It's like every other creature on the planet, like shelter, food, reproduce. Shelter, food, reproduce. And those five senses are going to help you find shelter, find food, and reproduce. That's it. That's what they're good for. The senses that you're talking about during meditation
Yeah.
are super, super delicate and subtle, but they're there.
Yeah.
And 95% of the population won't touch that because they won't even do the work to slow their mind to be able to notice those subtleties, that energy. So high five. You're yeah, you're touching on different dimensions.
Yeah,
And
there's something cool about it, isn't it?
yeah, it sounds crazy to 95% of the population. It's like, oh, you're nuts, man. You better get on your meds
Yeah.
to suppress that shit. No, no, no. Actually, we're designed. Like, we have this thing called our pineal gland.
Yeah.
You heard of that?
No,
So,
I might have, but I probably forgot.
yeah, so you know how, like, people from India, they have the red dot on their forehead?
Yes.
I don't know the actual name for it, but it's symbolic of your pineal gland or your third eye.
The third eye. Now that I know.
So that pineal gland, its kind of basic job is, so it has like the same biochemistry as your eyeball. It's got the same tissue as your eyeball, and it's in your brainstem. And its job is to sense light coming in through your eyeballs and release melatonin based on your circadian rhythm, so your wake and sleep cycles. So, like, people closer to the equator, they have more daylight, their pineal gland is smaller. People further from the equator, north and south, they need more melatonin in their system because they have less daylight. Their pineal gland's larger. So this is like the most basic function of it.
Yeah.
Once this pineal gland kind of gets activated, like you're saying, meditation, so that's kind of starting to knock on its door and say, hey, you know what? I want to use you for more than just waking and sleeping and releasing melatonin. It's your antenna, which sounds really crazy. So, like, we're electrical, we send out vibrations. Like you said, when your son comes home, you notice right away his energy.
Yeah.
So there's something there. What is it? We can't maybe even put words to it, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
So he's emitting a signal, you're picking it up. So we're basically communicating without even trying. Like it's just a natural thing. So the crazy part is once this like third eye or your pineal gland gets activated, you start to release these secretions, and this is like, I don't know because I haven't even experienced it yet. This is just stuff that I've read about from that guru.
Yeah.
And he says you start to download information from the cosmos, from the universe. So like all of a sudden your like intelligence doubles overnight. Like you have higher vocabulary, you have deeper clarity, you can see things that you didn't see before. Like all of this perception gets enhanced.
Yes.
It's the craziest stuff.
That's what I experience when, or not every time, but that's what I experience when I have a good when I meditate and I have a good experience. That's what I experience. It's like I downloaded this information.
Yeah, it's your third eye. It's your pineal gland picking up stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Human beings are the coolest thing, but I think we've really limited ourselves with like the knowledge that we're getting in school.
Oh, sure.
Like we're getting recycled information. How do you do multiple choice? Memorize your multiplication tables. Learn the alphabet. No, man, like this stuff can all be learned later on. How do you use the best chemical factory? How do you use the best like system known on this planet? Like that's what we are. How do you use this the best to your advantage? Like I think that's the whole trick to life. Instead of being these little zombie robots walking around just working 9 to 5, busting your hump to retire someday.
Yeah.
It's wild. It like, yeah, we could go on and on about crazy shit because I think that's what life's all about. Is like really discovering your full potential. Like, what is this body capable of?
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
Because I know that it's not designed for just sitting watching TV all day.
No. It sure is fun, though.
Yeah, it sure is fun.
Yeah.
But there's way more out there.
Yeah. No, but like I felt that just doing that breathing exercise with you, it was like a surge of energy.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I bet people who did it with us felt it too.
Raising your voltage.
Yeah. I remember the first time I experienced that. I was a kid in grade 7, and they gave us a piece of white paper and a straw, and they put the blob of paint in the fucking middle of the paper, and they said, blow through the straw onto the blob of paper and spread it around the paper. And I remember blowing as hard as I could and blowing it all around. And when it was done, I had a slight buzz on, and I felt all energized. Jeez, I should have realized back in grade 7 that was important.
That was a sign right there that you missed.
Yeah. That was your first buzz on.
Yeah. Hey, you want some more insight on this whole breathing thing and like how it relates to like how we're hardwired?
Sure.
So, like my analogy is it's for an anxiety attack. So, when you have an anxiety attack, it is like a train that's on a downhill slope with no brakes. So, your breathing picks up intensity because your mind has already lost control of your breath. You've lost control, the brakes are off, you're headed downhill, breathing gets faster and faster and faster and faster because of whatever stressor started that downhill cycle. So your body naturally knows, okay, this guy's offline. He's not thinking logically. He's basically flipped his lid. Let's breathe really fast. And when we breathe really fast, we're going to hyperoxygenate him. We're going to blow off all his CO2. And in our bodies, we actually have a little light switch for CO2. So it says, oh, there's no more CO2. The switch gets flipped. The breathing stops. So your body naturally puts like full throttle downhill, breathing. And then the switch gets flipped. CO2 is no longer in your system. It stops your breathing. You go unconscious. As you're holding your breath in this unconscious state, your CO2 starts to build back up. Flicks the switch back on, and you're back to normal breathing. So this Wim Hof stuff is basically like a runaway train with brakes.
Yeah.
So you take your body right to that maximum point of reset, and then you hit the brakes. That's what that breath hold is. Let the CO2 come back up, and then you can start again. So it's your body's like hardwired to reset, to find balance, because it's like, man, this guy's fucking out of line. Like, he's got so much anxiety. He's freaking out about whether he's going to get the pizza on time or whatever. Who knows? Whatever the anxiety attack it started from.
Yeah.
And we try and like block that from happening all the time. So like artificially, it's like pills, substances, behaviors.
Yeah. It's almost like you gotta let your body fix itself for a second here, right? Don't throw the pills in there because you know maybe it's our mind. You know, maybe the pills work for some people because they actually see the pill, but the meditation they don't believe it because nothing is really happening. You're just sitting there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have our own kind of way of navigating this mess. And I really firmly believe like whatever way you navigate this mess, as long as you do it without hurting the ones around you, like don't hurt yourself, don't hurt the ones around you, do your best. Do the best that you can with what you have right now. And then when you know better, do better.
That's great words.
Yeah.
That needs to be written down
hard.
somewhere. That needs to be written down somewhere.
It's recorded. It's all good.
Okay, right. Chris, I've learned a lot from you over this episode, man. I'm not going to remember
That's
half
cool.
the words that you said, though. I mean, these big words. Right?
And I only have them from like, because I worked as a paramedic. Like I have a medical understanding. Like I went to school for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be hard on yourself. They're just words.
Yeah. Don't ever.
They're sounds.
I have army words. Get over here. Get up here, you. And fire down range.
That's incredible.
No, wait. Attention. There's the one I know.
I have army words. That's incredible.
Oh man, Chris, what else have you had to tell me? Have we covered it all? You know so much, man. I can't believe how much you've learned about PTSD and everything over the years. I can't believe it, man.
Yeah.
You're very impressive.
Well, I was no longer able to do a job that I really enjoyed, and I had to keep busy.
Yeah.
So I turned in a different direction and just said, I want to be a dry sponge and I want to absorb as much as I can about this. I want to beat this.
I often wonder though, and you don't have to answer this. Did you learn all this for yourself? Did you learn it all for your wife? Or did you learn it because you wanted to help others? Because you're a paramedic. And there's one thing I know about all the paramedics that I've met over the years. Most of you love your job. Love it. Like you eat it and sleep it and everything. And it's a lot because you're the type of person who loves to help someone else.
You want to know my theory?
Yes, I do.
Anybody, this is my theory. Anybody in a helper role, so doctor, nurse, military, paramedic, firefighter, police officer, corrections officer,
There's a long list.
social worker, psychologist, the list goes on. Any helper role, anybody that finds themselves in those shoes, this is my theory, maybe it'll get proven true one day. They have been a recipient of childhood adversity. So they've either suffered childhood trauma, they've suffered emotional neglect, emotional attunement issues with the caregiver, and all in that like early stage of development. And they learned how to survive in that family structure by helping.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to cause trouble, so they just helped. They stayed low. They did whatever they could to not have the target put on them. And they built an identity around that. I'm a good kid because I help. I'm a good kid because I don't cause trouble. And as they go through their life events, they find themselves in that role and it's repeating. And then all of a sudden there's a job. Oh shit, I can get paid for helping? Fuck, I'm in.
I'm in, yeah.
And there's a like this is a whole nother direction we could go in right now. There's a dude. You have time?
What? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or are you falling asleep?
No, I'm not falling asleep. I'm listening.
Okay, so my psychologist, I'm free of a psychologist now. She set me loose. She's like, I no longer will keep you tied to this hitching post. You're free to roam. I trust you. So she cut me loose, but she gave me a lot of really cool tools. And the one person she said, this is really important, you should pay attention to him, was his name's Dr. Gabor Mate. So Gabor, and then his last name's Mate.
Okay.
He was raised in Auschwitz. So he was just a newborn while his mother was in a prisoner of war camp and his dad was like a slave for the Nazis. And he developed childhood trauma. His mother was not emotionally attuned to his needs. And in his book, he says his mom went to the doctor and said my boy, he won't stop crying. I don't know what to do. It's like all the Jewish children are crying. So based on the level of trauma and the fact that his mother was only focused on survival and not his emotional needs, just get this guy some food today. That's all I need. He developed attention deficit disorder, ADD. Yeah. And ADD this is right from him, is that it is from trauma, emotional neglect. And it's really hard for parents that have children with ADHD, like my son. He has it because of the environment he was raised in. But he says human beings, when they went from walking on 4 legs to 2 legs, the female pelvis narrowed to accommodate for walking, and the child had to come out of the womb earlier because of the size of the birth canal. It narrowed for being able to walk on 2 legs. So you have this brand new infant that should still be in the womb, and now it's absorbing the mother's energy, the energy of the environment, the father's energy. And if it's not in a balanced state, if there is a lot of stuff going on with violence, abuse, neglect, all that stuff, the kid's basically a sponge, and they're learning all these coping mechanisms, and it's creating like their chemical system. So they're always going to be having higher levels of cortisol, like the stress hormone. They're never going to feel safe and secure. And that is what ADHD is. So it's like when you see a kid that can't sit still, they're just like vibrating, like I have ADHD.
Yeah.
And it is from that early childhood stuff. And like, I know mine wasn't crazy, but it was enough. And like, my dad had it. He was raised in like an alcoholic, abusive family. So was my mom. So like, they were struggling with their own stuff, trying to raise 3 kids, and they didn't have the tools that we needed to be like totally emotionally attuned and balanced. And that's what that is. So like, it's not a oh, you got ADHD, you're fucking doomed. It's you got ADHD, you probably landed in a helper role, and now what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
So like, the cool part is this Gabor Mate, he says like the cure for ADHD is love. He's like, the more attention that you can pay to your child, the more presence you can give to your child, the healthier they'll be. So like, as parents, caregivers, as they heal and work on themselves and find balance and like basically do the hard work, the kid naturally is gonna be a sponge and absorb whatever the parents putting out. So if the parents getting better, kids are gonna get better. So like, oh, I got my kid in therapy. Well, like that'll work, but if you're still sick, your kid's still gonna sink.
Yeah, he's still coming home to that toxic environment.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you change that environment, when you change yourself, everybody benefits. So
Yep.
like, PTSD isn't just a you disease. It's a family issue that starts
Yep.
with taking ownership and responsibility and saying, okay, I'm done doing this. I need to start changing in a big way. And definitely the last thing that anybody needs to resort to is suicide. Like, it's not an option because you're leaving your family with the stuff that you struggled with.
Yep. Everything that you could not handle, you're leaving behind.
Yeah. And like, my heart goes out to people that have died by suicide and the families that have had family members die by suicide, because there is help out there. It just sucks that it wasn't put in front of them and that it wasn't put to use. Like,
Yeah.
my heart goes out to them because it is fucking awful.
Yeah. How
And
did
it
you?
doesn't need to happen.
I got one final question for you. How did you discover all this stuff with the breathing and the grounding?
So the first was um like the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know what happened. I just checked it out.
Yep.
Somebody pointed me in the direction of this Wim Hof dude. Hey, you gotta watch episode 720 of Joe Rogan. I'm like, okay. And I did it, and he did the breathing, and Joe Rogan's face was like, what the hell just happened to me?
Yeah.
And I felt exactly the same way. And then I fully surrendered and said, okay, I'm gonna sign up for yoga. And then that's when the earthing book got put in my hands by her name's Hannah. She runs like Happy Jack Yoga with her husband Jack. And so like, just I know that whatever's put in front of me, it's a teaching moment now.
That's cool.
Everything. Yeah, everything happens ultimately for a reason. Like, do you choose to take the lesson out of it, or do you choose to take like the pain and suffering from it out of it?
Yeah.
Like, the choice is yours.
Yeah. A lot of times I look at hard times now as okay, I'm being tested right now.
Yes.
I'm being tested, so I gotta remain calm, stay focused. I've been through worse. I'll get through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually what works for me.
And we're the hardest on ourselves. Like,
Oh, Jesus,
the way
yes.
that you judge yourself, you would never judge Vanessa or your kids. Like,
Oh, no, man. No. I grew up in the 80s as a kid, man. Rambo and Commando and Bruce Willis. So for me when I was in the military to start experiencing recall from my tour and everything else, I'm like, well, geez, Rambo didn't have this problem. What's going on
yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I've
Wild, Jamie.
learned a lot from you here tonight. I wish I lived closer to you, Chris. We'd be definitely hanging out more.
Well, we can always do phone calls.
Hey, man, I got Zoom today. Oh, right, yeah, Zoom didn't work for you.
Yeah, I tried it on my iPhone, so we'll have to work through the kinks. But Mindy is the guru. She would help me with the computer for sure.
Yeah, I go to my kids. How do I do this? How do I do this?
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, Chris,
Yeah,
man.
I can send you a bunch of stuff, and then you can add it to this as like a resource list or whatever, like books and
Yeah, please
all
do.
kinds of junk.
Because there is a description that goes along with the episode. So any links or anything you got, I'll definitely put it in. And I know when this podcast episode comes out, people are going to want to know more about your app. I have shared some of your videos in PTSD buddies in the groups, and people really do enjoy your videos, man. You're doing good work, and a lot of people out there appreciate it.
Oh, amazing!
Right, so keep doing what you're doing. When your app does come out, I'm definitely going to share it all the way through PTSD buddies,
Nice.
So every PTSD buddy across the globe here can download this app and have a go with it, because it does work, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really care what you think. I know it works for me. I've seen so many people that once they do the breathing exercises, and once they do meditation, things like that, not all of it's going to work for you, but I guarantee one of it's going to work.
Yeah.
If it's not the breathing, the grounding, that it's, there's a reason why it's called grounding. Right? Right?
Totally.
I had to admit this. It's like saying this. Did you know Rice Krispies are made from rice?
No way.
Do you remember that commercial? I remember that commercial came out. Rice Krispies are made from rice, and the commercial goes, "Well, if you didn't know that, what the hell did you think it was made from?" And I remember sitting there going, "Holy shit! I never realized that."
That's crazy.
Before that commercial, someone said, "Hey man, what's Rice Krispies made of?" I was like, "I don't know, grain, wheat,
something.
yeah,
something
it's made
magical.
of rice, man. Come on."
JB, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, I don't get it, man. I went to the grocery store the other day, and milk doesn't just come from a cow anymore. Do you know? I realize how many types of milk there are out there.
Oh yeah, they've done a crazy number.
They're getting milk from oats. They're getting milk from grain. They're getting milk from almonds.
Yeah.
I can't even find a nipple on an almond. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. Some good guys out there doing some hard work.
Milk in the almond tree or whatever.
Yeah,
gross,
man.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Oh man.
I freaking love you, Jamie. Yeah, and I definitely resonate with I wish we lived closer. But you're gonna jump over me when you move to wherever you move to next.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll make it work.
I'll be able to visit, because flights in Newfoundland, in and out of Newfoundland, are expensive. I don't get it. I don't. When I lived in Edmonton and I used to book a flight to Newfoundland on Christmas to visit my folks, the travel agent would always say the same thing. Well, for $300 less, you could go to Hawaii. I'm like, man, just fucking book the ticket, all right? Like,
wow, really?
Yeah, and I don't get it. It's always been expensive. Like right now, because of COVID, Air Canada is having all these specials. Ain't no specials in Newfoundland.
No way.
Yeah, no specials in Newfoundland. Man, nothing.
Unreal. That's wild.
Well, Chris,
wild.
I won't take up any more of your time, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for taking this time. We should do more of this, because I feel like we got more to talk about with this PTSD and the breathing stuff.
Yeah, let's set it up.
Yeah, man.
Episode 2. Here we come.
Let's talk about meditation and aliens next time.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Well, like I was close. I had my one buddy was OPP, and he's like, Chris, he's like, if I catch you up that radio antenna with a tinfoil hat, man, I'm not gonna be impressed. I'm like, settle down, I'll be all right.
Listen, Chris, as your true friend, let me say, if I ever catch you with tinfoil on your head and doing all that stuff, I'm not going to phone nobody. I'm just going to record you for YouTube.
Amazing. I thought you were going to say you'd join me.
I probably would. Yeah, I probably would.
Awesome,
yeah.
Jamie.
My tinfoil would probably have barbecue sauce on it, though. I use tinfoil barbecue and all that stuff.
Unreal.
I won't take up any more time, man. Say hi to the wife and kids for me, and thanks again for doing this.
Awesome. You're a gift.
All right, bro. You take care now. Cheers.
All right. Peace out. Love you lots.
Love you lots, man. Cheers.
Wait.
Thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of the PTSD Buddies podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you or someone you know is dealing with PTSD, please look for PTSD Buddies on Facebook. You can join one of our great Facebook groups and get support. You can look for us on Twitter, Instagram, or check out our PTSD Buddies YouTube channel full of hundreds of helpful videos to help you deal with PTSD. Cheers, everybody. Have a great one.